Okay, get this. You ready for this? You sent us down like a total rabbit hole with this one. UFOs, glowing orbs, government reports, it's got it all. And guess what? NASA might actually have some answers.
But they're not the answers that you might expect.
Yeah, they're not the typical alien spaceship kind of answers. Yeah. So we got a research paper from a scientific journal, and we have a YouTube deep dive video from SSPD Iviving, and it's full of astronaut quotes and like declassified documents and some crazy footage from NASA from like the 90s.
Really wild stuff.
So buckle up, because we're going to try to answer the question, are UFOs actually living plasmas?
Ooh, big question.
And if they are, what does that even mean for like everything?
Yeah, it kind of rewrites a lot of things.
So the word you need to know for this one is plasmoid. Basically, it's like this glowing blob of plasma, right? That acts kind of like a living thing.
Yeah, and plasma is often called like the fourth state of matter, and it's everywhere in space. Right? So think about like the northern lights or even lightning here on Earth.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But here's where it gets really crazy. This paper is saying that some of these plasmoids, especially the ones way up high in Earth's atmosphere, are huge.
Huge, yeah.
Like up to 1 kilometer across.
Yeah.
And they're doing things that seem, well, intelligent. So you might think this sounds like total science fiction, but hold on.
Okay.
The SSPBI Viving video actually walks through some pretty fascinating NASA footage, and most of it is from shuttle missions back in the 90s.
A lot of good stuff came out of those shuttle missions.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tether incident is like particularly compelling, I think.
Yeah, what is that? Tell me about that.
So we're talking about like hundreds of these glowing orbs.
Whoa.
All swarming around this 20-kilometer long electrical tether out in space, right?
Wow. Okay.
And they're interacting with each other, and they're even like leaving these trails when they collide with each other.
Oh, really?
It's crazy. The footage is kind of grainy, but it's hard to dismiss, I think.
Oh, yeah, I bet. It's like something straight out of a movie.
Yeah.
So these plasmoids, what are they doing that's got scientists so, like, interested in them?
Well, they're replicating. They're changing shape, even displaying what looks like predatory behavior.
Really?
So think, they've been observed merging, splitting, accelerating, decelerating, making these sharp turns. Without any, like, visible means of propulsion, right?
Oh, so they're just zipping around.
They're zipping around, yeah. And remember that quote from the paper about them piercing other plasmoids?
Oh, yeah.
It almost sounds like they're feeding, potentially, right?
Wow. Okay, so we've got these glowing blobs of plasma, and they're multiplying and moving around like they've got a purpose. Are we talking about alien life here?
Well, not quite. Not in the way we typically think of it, no.
So what are we talking about?
So the researchers are careful to say that these plasmoids aren't technically biological, right?
Oh, okay.
They don't have DNA or RNA like we do, but they do have some intriguing properties that hint at the building blocks of life, right?
Interesting. Okay.
So that whole thing about the plasmoids incorporating dust particles and forming these helix structures that are kind of similar to DNA.
Yeah.
I mean, that's wild, right?
It's crazy.
That suggests that, under the right conditions, maybe these plasmoids could, like, evolve into something even more complex.
So are we looking at, like, the very first steps in the evolution of life then? Or is there something else happening here that we just don't understand yet?
That's the big question, right? Yeah.
I don't know about you, but this is making me question everything I thought I knew about biology.
Yeah, for sure. It really changes how you think about the possibilities.
Definitely. And it makes you think about UFOs in a whole new way, too, right?
Absolutely.
We've always thought of them as these, like, metal spaceships from another planet, but what if it's something completely different? So you might be wondering, what does all of this have to do with UFOs? Well, here's where things get really interesting. Remember, this paper is arguing that many, if not most, UFO sightings can be explained by plasmoid activity.
Yeah, and that's a huge claim, right?
Yeah.
But when you think about it, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, think about those classic UFO descriptions, right? Glowing orbs, sudden changes in direction, impossible speeds.
Right, yeah.
It all kind of sounds familiar, right? And the paper even mentions Foo Fighters.
Oh, yeah.
Those mysterious lights seen by pilots during World War II.
Yeah.
As potential plasmoids,
Oh, wow.
So it's really, really fascinating.
Yeah. So it's not just those historical sightings either, right?
Right.
They connect, the paper connects plasmoid activity to more recent UFO reports, including the ones over nuclear power plants and that weird stuff that was seen over New Jersey.
Yeah, there have been a lot of interesting sightings in recent years.
Definitely. So this link between plasmoids and electromagnetism, right?
Yes, that's key.
That's what's got a lot of people thinking that this could be the answer to the UFO mystery.
So the key takeaway is that plasmoids are attracted to electromagnetic energy.
Okay.
And that's why they're often seen near thunderstorms, power lines, even satellites.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And remember that AARO report?
Oh, yeah.
That's the government's official office for investigating UAPs, right?
Yeah.
Well, they noted that many UAPs actually lack conventional signatures, like heat trails.
Oh, really?
And that kind of fits with the plasmoid theory.
Right, because they're not burning fuel or anything.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow. Okay. This is pretty convincing stuff, I gotta say.
It is pretty wild.
So before the break, we were talking about, like, predatory plasmoids.
Yeah, that's pretty wild, right?
No, it's like, it's a little creepy.
A little bit, yeah. It's the thought-provoking part of this theory, that's for sure.
So, like, what kind of evidence is there to support that idea?
Well, the researchers actually connect it to some pretty compelling real-world events.
Okay, like what?
Well, think about those mysterious cattle mutilations. You know the ones, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I've heard about those.
Baffled investigators for decades, right? Like the precision of the cuts and the missing organs, and there's just no real explanation. It's all really strange.
And you're thinking, like, well, there's a connection there.
Well, remember how we talked about plasmoids being drawn to electromagnetic energy?
Yeah.
Well, blood is rich in iron, right?
Mm-hmm.
And iron is a fantastic conductor of electricity.
Oh, okay.
So it's possible that these more advanced plasmoids, they could be drawn to the electromagnetic fields that are generated by the iron in an animal's blood.
So, like, they're not just floating around in the sky watching us.
Maybe not, no.
Like, they're interacting with us.
Potentially, yeah.
Oh, that's creepy. Maybe even, like, feeding off of us.
It's a chilling thought, yeah. But it's not just speculation. You know, remember those strange markings, those precise cuts that are found on mutilated animals?
Yeah.
They don't look like the work of any known predator.
Right.
And some researchers believe that they could be the result of a plasmoid interacting with the animal's electromagnetic field.
I don't know. This is getting this is a little creepy for me.
It's definitely a little unsettling, yeah.
Let's shift gears for a second, okay? And talk about something else that's been connected to UFOs, nuclear power plants.
Yeah.
So what's the connection there?
Well, it all comes back to that electromagnetic attraction, right?
Yeah.
So nuclear power plants, they generate massive amounts of electromagnetic energy, right?
Uh-huh.
So basically they're like beacons to plasmoids.
So if these plasmoids are real, we might expect to see a lot of activity around power plants.
Exactly. The SSTDI viewing video, it even shows footage of glowing orbs swarming around the Fukushima power plant after the 2011 disaster.
Wow. Okay.
And this isn't just like a modern phenomenon either, you know.
Oh, really?
There have been reports of UFO sightings near nuclear facilities for decades.
So it's like it's all starting to connect now.
Yeah, the pieces are starting to fit together.
So, like, are we saying that we've been misinterpreting UFO sightings for centuries?
Well, it's a possibility, right? We tend to jump to the conclusion that any unexplained aerial phenomenon must be aliens, right?
Right, right.
But what if we've been like looking at it all wrong?
What if it's something else entirely?
Exactly, yeah. These plasmoids, especially the more advanced ones, they behave in ways that could easily be mistaken for alien spacecraft, right?
Okay.
Sudden movements, the glowing lights, it all fits the description.
So are we saying we might not be alone in the universe, but the life we've been looking for might be right here on Earth, just in a form we never imagined?
That's a mind-blowing concept, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
It really is. And it raises, some really profound questions about our place in the universe and the nature of life itself.
It makes you think, like, what are these plasmoids? Are they like a stepping stone to more complex life forms? Could they be like the ancestors of biological life as we know it?
It's fascinating, isn't it?
I know. It's like it changes everything. It's like saying that life didn't originate in some primordial soup, but like in the sky.
A radical idea, right?
Yeah, totally radical.
But not entirely unfounded. Remember how we talked about plasmoids incorporating dust particles and forming those helix structures?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, those particles, they can contain elements like carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, like the building blocks of life.
Right.
So it's possible that over millions of years, these plasmoids, they evolved the ability to replicate and pass on genetic information.
Yeah.
And that eventually led to more complex life forms.
So instead of life emerging from the oceans, it like rained down on us from the atmosphere.
It's a possibility.
Yeah, it's a whole new way of looking at things. It's pretty amazing. But if these plasmoids are so significant, why haven't we heard more about them? Why are they just starting to be recognized as a possible explanation for UFOs?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think there are a few reasons for that.
Okay.
Firstly, the scientific community can be, pretty hesitant to embrace ideas that challenge our existing understanding of the world.
Right.
And the idea that something as seemingly simple as plasma could exhibit these lifelike behaviors and potentially evolve into life forms, I mean, that's a pretty radical concept.
Yeah, plus there's the stigma surrounding UFOs and anything considered like paranormal, right?
Absolutely. For decades, anyone who took UFO sightings seriously was labeled a conspiracy theorist, right?
Right.
Even scientists who tried to study these phenomena were often ridiculed.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's understandable that there's been a reluctance to embrace any theory that might lend credence to the UFO phenomena.
But it seems like things are changing,
Yeah.
with the government more openly acknowledging UAPs and more scientists willing to discuss the possibility of extraterrestrial life. Maybe the scientific community is finally ready to take these phenomena seriously.
I think you're right. And if that's the case, then this plasmoid theory could be a game changer.
Yeah.
It could revolutionize our understanding of life itself.
Right.
And lead to discoveries that we haven't even begun to imagine.
This is all really, really exciting stuff. But before we get like too carried away with the with all the possibilities, let's just step back for a second and consider something. Okay. As fascinating as this plasmoid theory is, it's important to remember that it's not the only explanation out there for UFO sightings.
You're absolutely right. It's important to consider all the possibilities before we jump to any conclusions.
So when we come back, let's explore some of those other potential explanations, okay? And see how they stack up against this plasmoid theory.
Sounds good.
So we've been talking about this plasmoid theory, and it's pretty wild, right? But like we were saying before, it's not the only possible explanation out there for UFO sightings.
No, definitely not. There are other possibilities.
So, what are some of the alternative explanations that have been put forward? Like, where do we even start?
Well, I think the one that most people jump to first is the extraterrestrial hypothesis.
Yeah. The
idea that some UFOs are actually spacecraft from other planets.
Right. That's the classic UFO explanation. It's like what we see in the movies and TV shows and all that. But is there any actual evidence to support it? Like, is there anything concrete?
Well, there's a lot of anecdotal evidence out there, right?
Yeah.
Eyewitness accounts, blurry photos, videos.
Yeah.
But so far, nothing that definitively proves the existence of alien spacecraft visiting Earth.
So it's a possibility, but maybe not the most likely one, right?
Right.
What about those cases where there's no clear evidence of a physical object,
Yeah.
like just strange lights or sounds? How do those fit into the picture?
Yeah, those cases are where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
So some theories suggest that these sightings could be interdimensional beings or entities.
Interdimensional, like from another dimension?
Yeah, it sounds pretty far out there, right?
Yeah, it's getting a little out there, but yeah, okay, tell me more.
Okay, so some theories propose that there are other dimensions, other realities coexisting with our own, right?
Right.
And that sometimes these dimensions, they intersect or they overlap.
Okay.
And when that happens, it might allow beings or entities from those dimensions to enter our reality.
Okay, now that's getting into some serious science fiction territory.
Yeah.
Is there any scientific basis for this theory, or is this just purely speculation?
Well, believe it or not, there is some scientific grounding for the idea of multiple dimensions.
Really?
Yeah. So string theory and quantum physics, they suggest that there could be dimensions beyond our own.
Okay.
And if those dimensions exist, who's to say what kind of beings or entities might inhabit them?
So are we talking about like ghosts here? spirits or something else entirely?
Not necessarily ghosts or spirits, as we typically think of them. Some researchers believe that these interdimensional beings could be, advanced life forms that have evolved beyond our current understanding of biology and physics.
So they're kind of like those outlier plasmoids that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
In that they could potentially represent a form of life that's beyond our current understanding.
Right. There could be some overlap between these theories.
Right.
What we're seeing might be, a spectrum of phenomena.
Yeah.
From naturally occurring plasmoids to something, much more complex and potentially even intelligent.
Okay, so my head is spinning a little bit here. We've got alien spacecraft, interdimensional beings. Are there any other explanations that we should be considering, or have we like exhausted all the possibilities?
Well, we haven't really touched on psychological and sociological theories yet. So some researchers believe that many UFO sightings can be attributed to misidentification of known objects or phenomena.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Okay, so think weather balloons, satellites, military aircraft, even unusual atmospheric conditions.
Right.
Our brains are wired to look for patterns, right?
Uh-huh.
And sometimes they can lead us to see things that aren't really there, especially when we're dealing with something unfamiliar or ambiguous.
So sometimes a UFO is just a weather balloon.
It happens, yeah.
Okay, but what about those cases where people report, feeling strange or even experiencing missing time during a UFO encounter? How do you explain that?
Yeah, those cases are definitely intriguing.
Yeah,
and there's no one size fits all explanation for those.
Right.
Some researchers believe that stress or sleep deprivation or even cultural influences can play a role in shaping our perceptions and interpretations of unusual events.
So it's not always about what's really out there.
Right.
It's also about how our minds process information.
Exactly.
And make sense of the world around us.
Right. Our brains are constantly trying to make sense of the information they receive.
Yeah.
And sometimes they fill in the gaps with assumptions or expectations.
Right.
And that can lead to misinterpretations or even, hallucinations, in some cases.
So where does all of this leave us? We've got all these different, explanations for UFO sightings, plasmoids, extraterrestrials, interdimensional beings, psychological factors. How do we even know which one is right?
Well, that's the $1 million question, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, we may never have a definitive answer.
Yeah.
But that's what makes this topic so fascinating, right?
Yeah.
It challenges us to think critically, to be open to new possibilities, and to keep searching for answers.
It's almost like the journey is more important than the destination in this case, right?
I think you're onto something there.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from this whole discussion is that, the UFO phenomenon, it's complex, and there's no simple explanation.
Right.
It's likely a combination of factors, natural phenomena, advanced technology, misidentification, and maybe even, something beyond our current understanding.
Yeah.
But by exploring all the possibilities, by being open to new ideas, and by continuing to ask questions, I think we can get closer to unraveling this mystery that's captivated humanity for so long.
Well, after this deep dive, I'm certainly not looking at the night sky the same way anymore.
Yeah, me neither.
What about you?
Every light in the sky now holds a little bit of mystery and wonder.
So if you're listening out there, keep looking up and keep asking questions, right?
Yeah, keep searching.
And remember, when it comes to the UFO phenomenon, the truth is out there. Somewhere.
Until next time, keep exploring the mysteries of the universe.